Yeah, I'm really glad that we're starting here because security is the foundation for everything else when it comes to IT. When I meet with small and medium sized businesses, the biggest security gaps that I see aren't technical, they're really behavioral. It's not that businesses don't really care about security, but often the thought is that security measures are something for the big guys, or it's too overwhelming, or they assume somebody else is handling it. For small and medium sized businesses, this usually means a few simple but critical things get overlooked. The biggest weak spots that we see are MFA. That means another form of authentication. So, like when you sign into your bank account online, when you enter your username, your password, and then it texts you another code in real time that you have to enter, that's what we're talking about here. We need to make sure that we're enforcing MFA across all of our systems and making sure that we're doing it across all of our platforms too. It doesn't help if we just have MFA for our email, but we don't to get into the financial system, right? So we need to make sure that we have it across everything, so that we don't have any harm done that we can't recover from. The next one is the next weakness that we see is endpoint management. This means that we have a centralized way to secure and monitor all the devices. Think of it like all the keys to your building. You want to know how many keys you have. You want to know who has the keys. You want to know what locks there are that the keys go to. All those things. Today, a lot of our applications have tools where you can access your email from your computer, from your phone, from your tablet, from all these other devices. So we need to have a management system in place to be able to manage all those things. Because all those things have a key to our doors, just like we were talking about. The next one is patching and updating. It sounds pretty boring because we've all been clicking on the button update now for so long, but this is really one of the larger areas where we see a high percentage of attacks happen. A lot of times when we come in and we see that there's been a breach, it can be that there was an update just released 6 months ago, or 2 months ago, or 2 weeks ago. So making sure that we're doing all the patching and update is very critical. One other weak spot is backups. With a lot of our clients, we'll come in and we notice that we do have backups running, but they haven't been tested in a long time. So they're only good when we need them. So we need to test those and make sure that they're ready to go at all times. Also, today technology is evolving. A lot of times our businesses are working from 8 to 5, but all the threats are happening 24/7. So we need to make sure that we have visibility into our infrastructure on a 24/7 basis. The average time to detect a breach is still over 2 days. It's like leaving your front door open for 200 days, right? So we need to be able to see things at all times. Now, the biggest threat is something that Tracy already talked about, and that's our people. It doesn't mean that we have bad people. It just means that we've evolved into a position where we as organizations are trusting people to make the right decisions on what to do and what not to do. People are trusting that the organization has put security as a priority and implemented things to keep them from doing anything wrong. So we're both trying to rely on each other, so we've got to address that within the organization. Some common things that we see are users that do things like clicking on the wrong link or clicking on an attachment. They fall for an email phishing scam, right? Tracy already mentioned that. Or maybe we have employees that are reusing passwords or using weak passwords. Or maybe those passwords are being used for multiple platforms, and we need to know about that. So maybe they're using the same password at work that they do for Facebook. That's going to be a problem for our organization. Also, we talked about this, ignoring software updates. That's a common thing where we see that users actually click a button that says ignore, right? Or remind me later about an update. We need to make those things go away as an organization and make sure those things happen right away. And then the last one for our users is just failing to report something suspicious. So when something happens or where they see something, they need to report it right away. This is another thing that we work with HR. We want our employees to feel like they can come to the organization with anything, right? So it's not just an IT thing, it's an HR thing as well, making sure that they're comfortable. We can help you address that. This means that businesses need to focus heavily on defending against threats and also leveraging human behavior and trust. We often refer to this as social engineering. When those threats are coming in, there's two key things we can do here when it comes to the human element. One, with security awareness training, that's just educating our employees on how to recognize and avoid things that are bad out there. So cyber threats like phishing, we talked about those emails, and dark web monitoring. That means we can help monitor those bad alleys that we see in the movies, right? That we all think about that people don't walk down. We want to monitor those because they're there. And so we can help do those, make sure that there's not any breaches or credentials out there. By the way, all these things are really important when it comes to your cyber insurance policy as well. Making sure that you have that posture is a big thing. Now, all this sounds scary, but here's the good news. None of this requires a $1 million budget. It's all about discipline and automation. So easy things to do. Enforce MFA everywhere, add in the security awareness training that we just talked about and the dark web monitoring, automate your patching and updates, automate your backups and test them. Deploying endpoint protection is a key thing as well. Consider an outsourced SOC. That's a security operations center, and that sounds really big and overwhelming, but it's not. For a fraction of a full-time hire, you could have 24/7 monitoring, threat detection, be able to respond appropriately, and it's going to cost less than a copier lease in your office. So it's really just not that hard to do. Now, in keeping with the theme of a 2026 business playbook, I do want to mention that 10 years ago, everybody started going to conferences and hearing things like security. That was a big topic. And then a few years ago, we all started hearing about AI. Now that's a big topic. Here in 2026, you're going to hear a lot more about AI combined with cyber attacks, if you haven't already. That's one of the big emerging trends. Think of it this way. Today, hackers use tools to do things. So for ransomware, they have all these tools and they're sitting there on a keyboard doing things. But today, AI is evolving. So it can think, it can decide, it can plan, and it can execute all these steps on their own. So they're going to happen more and more, and they're going to happen at all times of the day, right? So let's get ahead of that. Those things that we already talked about, those are key. We've got some other things that we can add in as well, where we can audit, making sure all these things that you've already done about moving to the cloud are configured the right way and ready to go. Security isn't just a one-time project, it's a practice. And when you make it part of your company's culture, it protects not just your data, but it protects your people, your reputation, and your growth.